Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Session 7 of Star Trek Bastet. If this is your first time joining us, hello and welcome. We are an actual play podcast that is role playing using the Star Trek Adventures system by Modiphius Entertainment. We're set aboard a time traveling Prometheus class with a crew of young officers. Now, don't stress if you can't stick around for the full session or if you've missed previous ones. The VODs and audio only versions are available on YouTube and most of the popular podcast solutions. A few announcements this week. I'll get through them as quickly as possible. First things first is that the big announcement is that for the month of May, I will be donating all bits or half of all bits, subs, and donations during the month of May to the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, or ASAN. And what that means is that I might butt in now and again to thank any donations as I catch them. So if you're an audio listener or you're listening to this on YouTube, just be aware that I might interrupt from time to time. And if you are interested in donating directly to the cause, type !charity in chat, and Nightbot should give you a URL to the campaign page. On a similar note, Mr. Alexio is doing well. They are recovering from surgery, expected surgery, and if all goes well, we should see them back with us on the 22nd. So it's good to hear that they're doing well. Another thing I will say is that up front for today's session is it might primarily be Starship Combat. Obviously, there's still going to be some ROLE play, but since it's been a while since we've done on ROLL play, just know that we might be rolling dice and being a little bit more tactical this week. So if that's not your thing, totally understandable. I think that's it in terms of my announcements, so let's go around and have everyone introduce themselves, starting with the captain.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex. I am playing Commander Abasi, the ship's Cation captain.
And Brian, I think you're next since Alexio isn't here.
I was going to say, I forgot that without Alexio, I'm next. I'm Brian. I'm at MindOverBrian on both Twitter and Twitch, although on Twitch I spell it with a 0. And I am playing Lieutenant Commander Baylor Droxine, the first officer and helmsman of the U.S.S. Bastet.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Darewolf at Darewolf Gaming on Twitter and Twitch, and I am playing the EMH, the Acting Chief Medical Officer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I play Lieutenant Tyr Thavarin, a Benzite security officer.
All right. If you don't know me by now, I'm ELH the Game Master, and let's get things started with an opening log from the lovely EMH. So take it away, Mr. Wolf.
Eric. I think I shall take the name Eric. The Bastet has been sent forward in time to the 26th century to help assist an admiral aboard the Enterprise J. Really nothing I should personally be concerned about. Rather, that is to say, as long as we don't take casualties. Anyway. I've begun my evaluations of the crew. As of this entry, I've only met with the captain, the first officer, and Lieutenant Tavarin. The captain shows classic signs of stress, lack of sleep, and, of course, being overworked. I've recommended to him a short leave at first chance, as well as a minimum of 7 hours of holodeck rec time a week. Something relaxing, low stress, like sailing or a beach. Though with his fur, the sand might not settle well. Regardless, the first officer has a severe case of separation anxiety, as well as classic symptoms of emotional displacement. I've recommended to him to interact more with the crew on a personal level, to make friends, connections. Perhaps this will help him with his feels of, I'm not supposed to be here. Then there is Lieutenant Tavarin. Honestly, I can find nothing wrong with him. He's an exemplary officer and a wonderful conversational companion. Our sessions usually revolve around Andorian poetry and opera. He's actually quite the skilled lyricist. Even though I've only been active for 13 days, I consider him a close friend. End log.
Very nice. And according to chat, you guys start with 1 momentum. But today, we are going to actually start in sickbay, where you, Eric, are actually in conversation with Lieutenant Junior Grade Hell. So Hell is sort of going over the motions, showing you things on notepads and whatnot. And eventually she points over at Alexio and R'hllor, who have already taken a seat, in the main part of sickbay where you have the biobeds. And Hell says, "And that's about it, Doctor. If my understanding of temporal mechanics is as well as I think it is, by enveloping those two in a temporal stasis field, they will be unaffected by our journey forward in time, which I probably don't need to tell you that until we figure out what's going on with her lore, the less stress we put on her in a temporal sense, the better."
I'm going to lean forward. I'm just going to very quickly just go over the readings. You're off by 1/10 of a degree with regards to the you're going to have to reconfigure the nanospatial phase equalizer. It's off by about 1%. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's right there.
My understanding is that it is within normal tolerance ranges. The 1 micron it is out of alignment isn't anything concerning, but you are the doctor. I suppose efficiency and perfection is acceptable. And she goes ahead and adjusts it.
Excellent. Other than that, this appears to be well within parameters. Shall you proceed or shall I?
Well, you are the chief medical officer. I believe it is your purview to tell the quote-unquote patients and activate the field.
I'm going to step forward, just poke my head inside. Lieutenant Alexio, Relor, if you would just lean back and relax. You should be fine, more than likely. And I will then activate the temporal shielding. Is there a roll I can make for that, maybe to get us some momentum?
Sure, why not? Why don't you roll me a control and medicine difficulty of 1?
I can do that. And would I have a focus on this?
If you have anything related to temporal mechanics or shielding, yes.
I don't. But I'm going to argue for counseling because I'm going to do my best to make them feel good. Come on. All right, that's fine. Okay. I tried. All right. And no focuses, but hey, there's
2 successes, which means you're up to 2 momentum. And what happens is the transparent sort of glass walls of the part of sickbay that has the biobeds, the glass turns into a prismatic sheen, and the doorway itself also becomes an opaque sort of mirror-like substance as the temporal shielding activates around this part of sickbay. And mechanically what this means is that so long as the ship itself has 1 power, the temporal shielding will hold on this part of sickbay. Now, obviously, if for some reason you are to lose all of your power, we'll address the situation then, but I did want to let you know that, power is somewhat important moving forward.
So the doctor, the EMH, will boop, 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 check life signs, stable, and they are in temporal equilibrium. Lieutenant Junior Grade Hell, excellent work.
Of course, Doctor. I find working with you to be very efficient. The other members of the crew are rather difficult for me to understand, I must admit.
Biological species. They are a interesting group, aren't they?
Speaking of biological species, it looks like here comes one now. And stepping in is a Lieutenant Tavarin, who isn't looking that hot, all things considered.
And as he steps in the door, stumbling just ever so slightly, you see that Thavarin's face is matted with a sheen of sweat, and it has this almost like viscous quality to it because of his unique physiology. Doctor, I don't know, I'm feeling a little under the weather.
What kind of check can I make to do a quick scan with my medical tricorder?
Reason medicine, difficulty of 0.
Brilliant. And I will have a focus for this.
Oh yeah, you definitely have a focus for this.
All right. And skadoosh. Wow.
All right, that gets you up to 3 momentum total. Very nice. And yeah, Tavarin, do you want to describe what's wrong, or should I make something up?
Go ahead, Mike.
All right. So interestingly, Tavarin is suffering from the Boolean equivalent of the chicken pox.
Well, Lieutenant Tavarin, I have both good news and bad news for you. You are suffering from, well, the best way to put it would be a very similar version to the chicken pox as experienced by many human people on Earth. It is somewhat mundane and you will get over it, but there's not much we can do about it right now. I can give you a painkiller if you're in pain, but Other than that, you're just going to have to suffer through it.
There's really nothing you can do? I mean, what are the other symptoms I should expect, Doctor? Is this going to affect my ability to carry out my duties?
Phenomenal questions. At this point, we'll have to monitor you, but realistically, other than perhaps some hives, itching behind the ears, runny nose, the loss of fingernails, you should be fine.
Loss of fingernails.
It only happens in 1% of carriers. It's very unlikely.
How would that even really work?
I'm not sure.
Do they just fall out?
I'll have to research it more. Anyway, come with me. I'll give you some sort of painkiller for it, and then I'm gonna take Tavarin over and administer something to him to help him with the pain and stress.
Got it. All right. And as that happens, we're actually now going to cut to the secondary engineering bay, where we have Droxine, Abasi, and Tamarochka going over the temporal shielding that was very recently added to the Bastet's complement of technologies. And Tamarochka sort of throws a pad down in anger and says, "This is not possible. I cannot make this damn thing work properly."
What have we already tried?
Well, we have tried hooking it up to the primary inversion manifold. We have tried making it connect with the superstructure. No matter what we do, there is still about 30% chronotons bleeding through. Enough to obviously shield us from a temporal sense, but not enough on a defensive measure.
Have we tried rerouting any power through the secondary and tertiary deflector matrix?
Well, sure, if you don't mind this one blowing... And she points at Droxine. You don't mind this one blowing out the deflector the moment he punches the guns or punches the engine.
I recommend against that, Captain.
Yeah, let's not do that then.
What if we tried installing a phased plasma dampening controller? Maybe that would...
I mean... And she actually kind of thinks for a moment and sort of rubs her chin in thought. I mean, theoretically, that might work. It would require someone like me to monitor it. Fuck it, I'm not doing enough already. Why not? Let's try it. And at this point, since Droxine, it's your idea, I need you to roll me a daring and an engineering. And you can either have Abasi or Tamarochka assist you. This will be a difficulty of 3. And what I would say is if you succeed, I will actually give you all the benefit of the temporal shielding talent.
Well, I'd like to spend those 3 momentum we have on getting a couple extra dice, if that's all right.
Sure.
Also, I think I will assist because I do have the advisor talent.
All right.
Excellent.
So for me, that is command and presence.
On the other hand, I don't think that I'm going to have a applicable focus unless inspiration will apply, because I was inspired to have this idea, and thus I am. Yeah, I can't justify it either.
Yeah, I can't give it to you. It was a nice try though. You had me about 75% of the way there. All right, so that's already 2 successes. Let's see if Abasi gets you an assist.
Do I have a focus that would work on this?
Let's take a gander at your focuses. I would say that your matter antimatter systems would apply here. Yes. All right, that's a crit.
Hey.
And Droxine, you also can reroll one of those zeros if you so wish.
Oh, excellent! I do wish.
Aim before complication, of course. Okay, no complication, but still 4 successes, which means you get a momentum back. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you guys a handout where I had this prepared. So, if you will direct your attention to the handout on screen, I would specifically like you all to focus on the temporal shielding aspect of the handout. So, long story short, what happens is that whenever you take damage, that bypasses your resistance. So, let's say, for example, I do 7 damage to you, and the Bastet has a resistance of 6, so that would be 1 damage to your shields, your structure, etc. What happens now is that you now roll 4 challenge die, and you then subtract it from that damage. So basically, it's like resistances, but it's tied to damage that bleeds through the shields, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Now, the caveat is, it doesn't matter what those die roll, you cannot re-roll them, period.
Seems fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, after the 3 of you get to work and otherwise get the bit of doodads and widgets working, Tamarochka kind of steps back, wipes her forehead across her sleeve, and goes, "Yeah, that was actually rather inspired, Mr. Droxine. I can see why they What am I doing? You're not gonna take the compliment I give you anyway, so fuck it. I'm just gonna go get something to drink."
Okay, thanks.
And
I don't think she likes me, Captain.
Tamarochka does very pointedly leave at that point.
To be fair, I don't think she likes very many people on this ship.
Yeah, and the people she likes is sort of a mystery until suddenly she likes them.
I've just learned not to question it at this point. Just let it go. It'll be much easier that way.
Oh, but Captain, there is nothing more time wasting than getting involved in the private lives of your subordinates. Like, I know way too much about what Mir thinks of the new AMH. Way too much.
See, this is you.
What, the doctor told me that I needed to spend more personal time with people.
In moderation, perhaps.
Well, look, Mir was the only one who would I'm working on it.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, this has been an excellent mentorship experience, sir. I really appreciate your wisdom and the advice that you've imparted.
I know as much as you do at this point. You know that.
Actually, I think, to be perfectly frank, I think you know a little bit more than I do, especially about the pressure of command. I absolutely do not envy you, and I cannot make that significantly understood enough. But I mean, if we're going to have a working relationship, you're going to have to get used to me trolling you a little bit sometimes.
Sebasti stands there for a minute. One of his ears flickers, which reminds me I'm due some time on the holodeck.
Oh, yeah. Let me know how that's going. I still have those programs I told you about. The walking tour of the Enterprise E is just... I can't even...
I don't know.
All right, look, I'm just offering.
Look, I'm gonna go. It's a nice, relaxing beach. Some nice, calm, quiet fishing where nothing will bother me.
And
All
that's
right.
where I'm going to spend the complication in chat that the ship automatically goes to red alert.
Abasi to bridge.
This is Lieutenant V. Looks like we jumped a little bit too close to the action, sir. And literally as she says that, the entire ship rocks as if struck by something. You're probably going to want to come up here immediately, sir.
On my way. Abasi out.
And with that, we now cut to the bridge of the Bastet as everybody filters in. V, of course, jumping out of the big chair to allow everyone to come on in. Bossy, you take your seat. Eric, since you are technically the science officer, we'll throw you in there. Alexio is behind a temporal shielding. Droxine's already on the map. Tavarin also hops in, usually where Alexio sits. But yeah, as everybody gets situated on the bridge, what you're seeing on the view screen is a phenomenal display of both spatial anomaly and in spaceship combat. Specifically, you are seeing ships of all makes and models. You're seeing Nova classes, you're seeing Steam Runners, you're seeing Akiras, you're seeing Tempests, you're seeing future designs which you have no idea what class they are, but they still are recognizably Starfleet. And they're fighting against these odd sort of trapezoidal structures or trapezoidal starships that have sort of a sphere in the back quarter of the vessel. And above them all, above everything that's going on, you can see, just due to the sheer size of it, you see the gigantic 2-kilometer large universe class that is the USS Enterprise J. And as everybody comes in and gets situated, Mir reports, well, sir, I was hoping that I was going to get us there with a little bit of more leeway, but looks like we've jumped straight into battle, sir.
What's the status of, I suppose, our fleet and the enemy?
That would be a Lieutenant Tavarin question, sir.
Scanning now, sir.
And yeah, Tavarin, if you want to give me a reason and a security, the Bastet will assist you with a sensors security. The difficulty on this will only be a 1.
Shipboard tactical systems, would that apply? Or
most definitely would apply.
Then I'll roll 3 dice.
Okay.
And applicable focus.
All right, there's 2. Let's see if the ship gets you an assist.
Sorry, what's the ship rolling?
Sensors security.
Sensor security. I heard security, and then I was like, I'll just remember.
Interesting. So you do technically still succeed. You do get a momentum, but I'm going to actually take that complication and save it for later. So, Tavarin, I'm actually going to preemptively put us on this map. And that way it'll make a lot more sense than me just explaining it verbally. So, let me point out a few things, and it'll make sense. So what you're first seeing is that a advanced Akira class, or at least it's sort of, in terms of silhouette, it's still sort of an Akira class. The U.S.S. Thunderchild M is currently locked in combat with 3 of the Sphere destroyers. The Thunderchild has about half shields, about a little less than half power, might need some help. The other thing you're noticing is that there is a courier vessel, the U.S.S. Tempest B, that is attempting to break orbit of Procyon V and is being harried by a Sphere corvette. Now, what this big old green line on the map means is that anything beyond to the right of that green line, you cannot warp. There is a spatial anomaly that sort of looks like the Nexus, that is spanning over 50,000 light years. And I'm not just making that up. Like, that is canonically the size of the anomaly that the Sphere builders have made. And it is visible almost like an omnipresent nebula as a backdrop against all of this. And for those who don't know, when I say Procyon V, yes, I mean that Procyon V, the one we see in Enterprise during a certain season finale type episode. But those are the 2 big things that you're noticing, Tavarin. You could, of course, decide to go help the Enterprise J. It is fighting against a multitude of enemies, but the Thunderchild and the Tempest are the probably biggest concerns you see immediately.
Captain, there's some bizarre, immense spatial distortion field behind us. It seems like it's disrupting any potential warp field bubbles from forming. It's nearly 50,000 light years large. I'm also picking up 2 vessels in distress. The U.S.S. Thunderchild, looks like a contemporary warship, and some small courier vessel.
The 2 vessels you're detecting, I think for now we need to concentrate on that and not this anomaly behind us. Can you tell, is one in more dire straits than the other currently?
They both appear to be heavily outgunned by the respective forces facing them. One is undamaged, a small courier vessel. However, I don't know if it would last very long against a ship of that size.
Sebasi is going to look towards the view screen for a few moments. We need to give some assistance to the Thunderchild, I believe.
Recommend that we hail the Tempest and ask them to try to rendezvous with us at the Thunderchild. We might be able to cover them both.
Agreed.
And it's at this point that we are going to enter into turn order. So, since it has been a while, I'll just remind everyone of the rules. So, what this means is that all of the ships have a number of turns equal to their scale, or in your case, the number of players. And what that means for you is that you all have 4 turns during this round. The destroyers have 3 turns, the Corvette has 4, the Tempest only has 3. And what I would say is that you all should have access to 2 macros, Tempest rolls and Thunderchild rolls. And since I think it's more dynamic, what I'm going to say is that you all will be rolling for the Thunderchild and the Tempest, not me. Because I think if a ship blows up, I want it to be a you thing, not a, oh, the GM is just blowing up ships for the hell of it kind of thing. But yeah, all things considered, it is the Bastet's turn first, so what would you all like to do?
We should get the Tempest out of there.
And as a reminder, we are using the Klingon rules for this Starship combat, which if you need a refresher, just let me know.
In terms of distances, we're currently at, I guess, beyond long range of either of the 2 closest enemy vessels.
Correct. You are at extreme range currently. Let me actually get that handout, because again, it's been a while. Let's see. Here is the movement handout. Actually, it's 7 to 10 is long range. So Destroyer A, you're actually at optimal distance for Quantums.
Captain, if I may, we could easily set up a salvo of quantum torpedoes on the closest enemy destroyer that might alleviate some of the pressure on the Thunderchild and allow us to move in.
All right, let's try to set that up. I want to get a scan of the destroyer before we launch salvo.
Aye, sir.
All right. So, scan for weakness at this range. Let's break it down. So, first things first, since this is a long range and not a close, it is going to bump up the difficulty a little bit. So, this is going to be a control and science for you, EMH. And the difficulty will be 3, and the ship will assist you with a sensor security.
May I spend 1 momentum, crew? Because I have cautious science. I can re-roll if I spend the momentum. So I'll go with.
It looks like we already have another complication. Good job, Bastet. Good job.
And I do have sensor use, so I figured that would.
Mostly would apply as a focus, yeah. All
Wow.
right, so EMH, what I'm going to say is, unless you want to spend determination to re-roll your dice, but
Ooh, wait, I used cautious science. I can re-roll one of those zeros.
you can
Six
re-roll
on
one of
the
the zeros.
Yep,
That
yep,
is correct.
Let's try to... All right. So control and control science 20.
It would need to be a crit, so good luck. And it is a crit. There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
There it is. All right.
All right. So what that means is that you are able to scan for weakness on the Sphere Destroyer. However, the complication is that while you do find something that resembles a structural weakness or something that would represent maybe a shield array that isn't as strong as the rest, what I'm going to say is that instead of getting the Piercing 2 quality, you only get the Piercing 1 quality on your next attack.
Captain, their shields are modulating almost faster than I can keep up with them, but I have managed to find a small weakness next to their port nacelle. If we launch our salvo into that, I may be able to assist us in dealing more damage.
All right, let's lock onto those coordinates.
All right.
Very good, sir. I've got a targeting lock.
So,
And should I go with quick to action so we can go again, or do you want the enemy to take a turn?
That might actually be a good idea. Just like let it happen. I think we should.
all right, I'm not hearing otherwise, so let's have the spheres go.
Yeah.
So, Sphere Destroyer A is almost as if it senses it's about to be blown the hell out of the sky. Is going to take its turn next, and it is going to open fire with interspatial beams that sort of look like almost rainbow colors in the way that they are sort of shifting through the various spectrums so rapidly. And let me roll. And they will hit. They will most definitely hit. So what happens is the Thunderchild takes a shot on its dorsal side of its saucer section. And how many effects is that? That is 2 effects. So it is immediately going to drop down to, let's see, so it has resistance of 8, ignoring 4 of that, so it has 4 resistance. It did 10 damage, so it's actually going to take a breach. And let me roll breaches here. So it's engines, meaning it's going to lose a power from that shot as well. So the Sphere Destroyer again lances out with this beam and hits the Thunderchild, and the Thunderchild's shields buckle for a moment, and it does come back to standard position. Its lights are flickering across its entire superstructure, though. It looks like it just took a big old hit. But yeah, I'm going to say at this point, it is the Allies' turn. So it could be the Bastet, could be the Thunderchild, could be the Tempest.
Lieutenant Varn, I have a lock on the weakest part of their shields. I suggest we fire.
I'm just waiting for the captain's order, Doctor. A single torpedo or a full salvo, Captain? They're relatively small ships.
I want a full spread of torpedoes. Let's try and knock it out in one go.
I could do that with 1 torpedo, but okay.
All right. Well, the good news is that you're at optimal range, so this is going to be a control security on your part, Tavarin. The ship will assist you with a weapons security. The difficulty is 3, and if I understand correctly, you did fire a salvo, so that does mean you do get an additional challenge dice on damage if you hit. What I would also say is that for every D20 you buy for this attack, you get another challenge die for each D20 you purchase because of Scan for Weakness.
We'll say that does give him 3 threat, though.
It does give me 3 threat, correct.
Also, I do say I have the Exploit Engineering Flaw talent as well.
Oh, in that case, I really would just go for 1 torpedo.
If you want to just use one, use one.
Yeah, I think that we'll go for that.
All right, so I only get the 1 threat. Looks like you have 1 momentum at the moment.
Yeah, so I will buy an extra die and use Augmented Ability Control for 1 free success.
Okay.
And applicable focus.
A lot of complications tonight. That is...
So what am I rolling for
Ship help.
my assist?
For your assist, I think this would be almost maybe an Insight Engineering is what comes to mind. Unless, I forget, does Exploit have a specific role it wants, or is it just whenever you assist?
It's an extra assist versus a ship that has had a Scan for Weakness.
Ah. Yeah, in that case, I would just say Insight Engineering would probably be best here. Oh, hello. We just got a raid from Jeremy. Welcome, raiders. Hello, hello. We're playing Star Trek Adventures right now. Hopefully you all had a good stream. Thank you for joining us.
Would my starship recognition be an applicable focus?
I'll give it to you.
So Wolf, we use that 1 momentum.
All right. So, again, I have to look at the wording here. Does exploit mean you have to succeed, or is it just whenever you assist? Because that's going to make a big difference here about how much damage you roll.
The exploit is, if successful, gain 1 bonus momentum.
Is it if the attack is successful, or if it's your assist is successful, though?
If the attack is successful. Okay, so it is, yes, it is successful, so you still do get it. Yes. So you do have 1 floating momentum, and since you did buy 1 additional d20, I believe you are rolling for the Bastet. I think it's 9 challenge die, all said and done.
And that was 3 successes, right? We only needed 2?
You only needed 3, so you actually don't get any momentum off of this.
Wow.
That.
I have bonus momentum, though, from all fingers and thumbs, which I will spend to re-roll that whole mess of zeros. So that's 7 zeros that I will re-roll.
Would recommend.
Yeah. Jesus.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Okay, significantly better. Significantly better. Wow. All right, so let's break this attack down. So that is a total of 8 before effects. After effects, that is 7, 8, 9, 10 damage, piercing through 4 resistance. So what I would say is that is enough to knock them below half, but not quite enough to get rid of their shielding completely. So that will only be 2 breaches, all things considered.
8. Isn't that 12 points of damage?
Let me check again. 8.
If it's a vicious one.
Because I started at 6. Yes, it is 12. So yes, in that case, you do manage to get through their shields. And since they're only scale 3, what happens is Tavarin pushes the button. Abasi, you direct him. EMH, you direct him to shoot at a certain position. And the 3 of you working together as a single quantum torpedo flies out from the front of the Bastet saucer. It slams into Sphere Destroyer A and causes a cascading explosion that completely eliminates the destroyer from existence.
Told you I could take it out in 1 quantum torpedo.
Nice shot.
Excellent.
It is at this point that the Sphere Corvette is going to choose to act, and it is going to open fire on the Tempest. And it also will succeed. Now, what it's going to do is it's actually not going to go for its interspatial beam here. Instead, it is firing out what seems to be this greenish, yellowish-hued tractor beam-like particle emission between the Corvette and the Tempest. And what you're noticing on sensors is that the Tempest has lost 2 power as a result of this. It did not take any damage to its shields, but it is losing power the longer it stays next to this Corvette. Which now comes back to the Allies' turn. What would you all like to do?
Might I recommend to the group that we activate the Tempest and attempt to move it as far away from that Corvette as they can?
I think it's caught in a tractor beam, though, right?
It's not technically in a tractor beam right now. It's just being power drained.
Okay. Also, we got a momentum from chat.
Oh, that we did. Good catch.
God bless you.
Yes. God bless you, chat, and God bless you, Nick. Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
So yes, let's activate the Tempest and try and get it away from the Corvette.
All right. So you're still going to click the Corvette's or the Tempest's macro, but it is only a difficulty of 0. So yeah, you actually get 2, 3 momentum back, as the Tempest can move anywhere within medium range, or anywhere within long range, actually. So anywhere up to 10 spaces away. So where would you like to move them?
I'd say get them as close to us as they can.
Okay.
And then we can move in maybe on our next turn and shield them.
Okay. So what I'm going to say there is, because chat just gave me a another evil Q power, here's what's going to happen.
Chat doth giveth and doth taketh away.
Exactly.
Nice.
As the Tempest is breaking free of the energy dampening field and flies away, what happens is the Corvette is actually going to spin on a dime. In fact, it's almost alarming how quickly it turns. And as the Tempest gets within medium range away from the Corvette is going to get a free secondary attack against the Tempest. And they do succeed. So the Tempest is going to be oh, that could be bad. 8, 9, 10, 11 damage, ignoring all resistance. So the Tempest goes down to literally one shield as the interspatial beam slams into it, causing a breach to its weapons and otherwise a power fluctuation across the Tempest's decks. But it does, thankfully, still get to the aforementioned location near the Bastet. And to add flavor, you do get a hail from the Tempest at this point.
On screen.
And it's one of those classic sort of scenarios where it's just a shot of like static and VHS effects with just smoke pouring from the ceiling and debris and sparks shooting out, and you can't really make out what Captain is or, you know, who's even in the command chair, but whoever it is says, I don't know who the hell you are, but we need your cover bad. We just lost our weapons. We're barely keeping afloat here. Our shields are barely hanging on. It's just whatever you could do.
We'll try and put ourselves between you and that Corvette. Just get your repairs going as quickly as you can.
Got it. We're actually carrying dignitaries from Procyon V, so it's absolutely crucial we get to the warp out point.
We'll try and keep their attention off of you.
All right.
Have we
Is it
used
this-
quick to action yet?
We
You
have
not, no.
And it is the enemy's turn.
Well, unless you use quick to action.
Use it.
Yes.
I think we should use it.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good time to use it.
All right. So, which of the allies do you want to go next?
I would suggest actually the Thunderchild fire because the Corvette has already taken 2 tactical actions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably not going to be able to do anything again in that respect. But the
Does
2 Corvettes,
Thunderchild
which
fire
are now
on
in...
B, maybe?
Yes, because that would be in firing range of the Tempest as well.
Well, the Tempest doesn't have any weapons.
No, but I mean, the Corvette could easily fire on the Tempest and destroy it.
Gotcha.
And I'd probably give the Tempest or the Thunderchild maybe 2 dice, 1 or 2 at least.
Mm-hmm.
Give it. You want to give it 1 or 2?
Well, I'm just saying we should give it at least 1.
Let's give it 2 extra dice.
I like it. I'll give it 3.
Yeah.
3 momentum for the 2 extra dice.
All right. And unfortunately, it looks like it didn't actually roll the extra die. So go ahead and roll 2 more d20. Just roll it manually, and we'll go from there.
Oof.
All right.
I wish mine would have gone through first.
Yeah. So unfortunately, let's see. So that is 1. Well, you still get the 2 successes you need with the 7 and the 1 success. So you did succeed. Unfortunately, it looks like it's only doing 4 damage before resistance. So, do you want to spend reroll zeros? Do you want to give it piercing? What do you want to do with that?
Oh, and it has Phaser Banks rather than Phaser Ray, so it doesn't get the 2 versatile?
Correct. Well, no. It still has the versatile 2 effect because it's phasers. The array gives area or spread for free.
Okay. I might re-roll those 6 zeros and spend
Yeah.
the 1 momentum to do that.
All right, significantly better. You're up to 8.
Yeah.
And you do have 2 floating momentum from versatile 2.
You spend 1 to
resistance, right?
overcome their resistance.
Well, they have 3 probably, so spend 2 to get rid of all the resistance.
I think that would be a good idea.
All right. So, dealing 8 damage, the Thunderchild fires from its lateral arrays. Those nice Federation-style orange beams slam into the destroyer's shields, dealing significant damage. Not enough to knock it out of the water like you all did, but enough that the engines on the destroyer do flicker out, meaning it does lose some power, as well as a turn, which is very important, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now is Destroyer C is the only valid actor besides the Corvette A. So I think Destroyer C is going to see the threat of the Thunderchild and open fire with its own interspatial beams. I have threat, I think, because it is the Thunderchild and would be thematic for it to blow up. I'm going to spend 3 threat here to see if the Thunderchild survives.
Come on, Thunderchild.
All right, well, let's see. That is no effects. So, interestingly, the Thunderchild tanks the shot, no problem, from Destroyer C. In fact, it's one of those situations where on the Thunderchild bridge, they kind of buckle for a little bit and says, "Report." Nothing, sir. We're actually kind of fine. Oh, we'll keep shooting then. Kind of a situation. But it's now the player ally's turn again. So, who wants to act?
Brian hasn't gone yet.
This
Yeah,
is
but
true.
all I can really do is move the ship around, and apparently we don't want to do that, really.
I think it might be beneficial to place us in between the Tempest and the Corvette.
Mhm.
Maybe like shield them.
I agree with that.
Well, as the captain, just to give the order, guy.
Bring
We'll
us
move
in
the ship.
between. Move the ship. Bring us in between the Tempest and that Corvette.
Aye, sir.
All right. So here's where I'm going to ask the question. We're going to treat this like either an evasive action or an attack pattern. And what that means is if you do an evasive, more or less you will take the next shot aimed at the Tempest. If you use an attack pattern instead, what that'll mean is you will more or less go on point defense, shooting down torpedoes, shooting down or deflecting phaser shots, things of that nature. Now, they are each different in terms of assists. So, Droxine, you're still rolling a daring and con for each, and it still is a difficulty of 1. But if you do evasive, the Bastet assists with structure con. If it's attack pattern, it's weapons con instead.
I think we're better served going weapons con.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm thinking like an old school MMO tank. I want to present.
You want to pull threat, yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I hit control and I wanted daring. Daring con. Difficulty 1, you said?
Difficulty 1, yes.
Well, then I'm not going to bother spending a threat. That's silly. Helm
Would apply.
control, helm operations. As soon as I
that's
said I
2
wasn't going to spend
successes.
threat, I was certain I was going to
Does
spend.
the ship roll with a focus?
Yep, weapons con.
Hey!
Hey,
Very nice. That is 4 successes total, which means you get 3 momentum back. And narratively, what happens is Droxine coaxes the Bastet out to stand in sort of a watchdog, close proximity to the Tempest B. And again, there isn't like actual damaging attacks coming in, but thematically, we see a few torpedoes fly towards the Tempest, and the Bastet sort of doing a pirouette through space, almost a barrel roll, lancing out with its phasers, shooting down torpedoes as they come towards the Tempest. But it is at this point that we now can go to other actors. So, as you did say, Corvette A has already used 2 tactical actions, which means it can't do it again. So I think Corvette A is simply going to move within long range, dropping it down some power. And that is the entire Corvette's turn, which means it's now back to the players and allies.
We should probably blow up that Corvette, but that's just like my opinion, man. Or could we move the Tempest? Because he can move up to 10, right? This is a whole new round.
It is.
that
Well,
right?
it's a whole
Okay.
new thing. What it would mean is that they would now be at difficulty 1 instead of difficulty 0, because it's the second helm action.
Okay. I feel like the Tempest maybe like getting the hell out of Dodge might be a good thing, you know?
Yeah, let's move the Tempest again.
Because they
Okay.
can move 10, right?
Yeah, can move up to 10.
So they could get out of this thing and then hit warp,
Yep.
right?
So yeah, all I need is somebody to hit the Tempest macro, and as long as it gets 1 success, the Tempest is off the field.
There's your
Nice.
success.
Yeah, I see a success in both of those. So yeah, what happens is the Tempest bolts for the delineating line in space that gets it out of the anomaly. And once it's past the threshold and out of the anomaly, its warp nacelles spool up, and it jumps away to warp. So the Tempest is no longer on the field. It has escaped. Congratulations. You've accomplished Objective 1.
I'm
Now-
really proud of everybody.
The problem is that it is now Destroyer B's turn. And Destroyer B is not happy with the Bastet. It is not happy with you at all. And because you are in an attack pattern, it is much easier to hit you. So, I'm going to give him 1 threat, I think is thematically appropriate here. Didn't even need it. That is an obscene number of successes. That is 4 successes. He didn't need that. But I will use one of that threat gain to reroll those 4 zeros. All right, so let's break this attack down. We're looking at a grand total of 7, 8, 9 damage, ignoring 6 resistance. So that is, let's see, you have 6 resistance. So you're down to no resistance. And I think you just take the 9, yeah, unless I'm missing something.
We roll our
get our
new
temporal
temporal
shields?
shielding.
You do. So whoever feels lucky.
It's 4, right?
It is 4. Very nice. Very nice. So thanks to your new temporal shielding, you actually only take 3 damage to your shields, all things considered. And no breach. You're perfectly fine.
Captain, do you remember whether Tamarochka clarified whether that was just displaced temporally, so we'll feel it later?
Don't believe that was ever clarified. We'll deal with it when we're not in combat.
Ah,
And
reasonable.
V says, although no one's probably paying attention to V, it doesn't work. They don't shunt it to another time. That would be silly. Why would you do... sorry, sir. We got the Corvette coming up on the right flank. Because, yeah, I'm going to say that after you guys have gone again, or after Sphere Destroyer B just went, I'm actually going to spend more threat to now make it so that the Corvette can go again. And the Corvette is actually going to attempt a ramming action against the Bastet.
Get out of here.
Which it succeeds at, so I now have to calculate the damage for manually. Alright, so it's 2 plus scale in terms of stress. It is a scale 5 vessel. Okay, alright, well, that means 7 challenge dice. I'll spend 1 threat to reroll those 4 zeros, because it's thematically appropriate. Alright, so that is a grand total of 7 damage. Before effects. So it has piercing 3, so you just have no resistance. It's not there anymore. You had 3 effects, so that brings it up to 10 damage. And it also has spread, which means it does 2 secondary attacks for half damage. But what that does mean is it also takes that in its own damage. So it's going to get 3 breaches off of this, but we need to handle you all. So right now, unless I'm miscounting, you're taking 10 damage.
What about our temporal shielding?
That is what you have to roll next, yes. All right, you're taking 6 damage, which does mean that the first attack takes you down to, you were at 17, so you're now at 11 shields. And then the secondary attack comes in for half damage, so that would be 3 damage, but no breach. So you would now be at 5 shields, if my math is correct. I think that's right. So, as the Corvette slams into the Bastet, it loses power immediately and begins listing and drifting off to the southern side of the map. And it is completely disabled. That ramming attack completely disabled it. So it's still on the field, but it's probably not going to be able to come back and do anything action-wise. Now, for you all, I do need you to suffer a breach to structure, which does mean... Alright, nobody got injured, but it does mean, unfortunately, you cannot MVAM until you repair that structure.
That is unfortunate.
And it is at this point that either you all can go, or the Thunderchild can go.
So my heart is really, I'm feeling good about the Thunder Child, and I think we should let them try to destroy Destroyer B. I feel good about this.
We are out of phaser range, so
Thunder.
I was going Thundercats, but okay.
Okay. Ho!
There you go.
Uh, so somebody want to take the Thunderchild, give them an extra die?
All right. Well, let's see. That is actually the 2 successes they needed. So actually the 3. Go ahead and spend. I was gonna say, go ahead and spend the 1 momentum to give him that additional die because I don't want you to waste that. I don't know why the macro's not asking you guys for momentum, but
Okay.
Go ahead and roll another d20 there.
I can do that.
All right, that 9 is sufficient. So yeah, with the 10 damage of the phaser banks, the Thunderchild lances through the spherical portion of Destroyer B, and it does one of those cinematic things where it flies past Destroyer B, and otherwise fires once or twice from the rear, and the lances carve, almost Wolverine style, carve into Destroyer B, causing it to begin to list and then explode in a resonating fashion that completely eliminates it from the field.
Oh.
Which means the only actor left on field is Destroyer C. And I think Destroyer C is going to attempt something that is either going to blow up the Thunderchild or is going to blow up Destroyer C. You know what's coming. It's a ramming action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which it actually fails at. Wow. Wow, that is impressive. So what happens is Destroyer C flies really, really close, almost impacting the Thunderchild as it comes up from below. But the Thunderchild banks to the right, allowing the Destroyer C to just barely scrape by. It's like that one scene in Metal Gear Rising, the Revengeance game, where, you know, Jack's falling and the helicopter blades are spinning and he just kind of barely tilts his head back to keep from getting his head chopped off, and the helicopter blade just sort of like scrapes across his metal chin. Like, that's how close Destroyer C got to hitting the Thunderchild. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I believe it's the Bastet's turn.
Could we take perhaps a helm action to get us within range of the last vessel and then open fire? We can't retain the initiative, though, even by spending momentum twice in the same turn, right?
Correct. You can only retain initiative once per round.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be an increased difficulty because we already made a helm maneuver, but of course we can do it again. I'll just lean over and use...
The benefit, I would say, is that because it is technically an attack pattern, your attack is at a reduced difficulty. And what I would also say is that you still can shoot them with phasers at long range. It just is at an increased difficulty, which is nullified by the attack pattern.
I'd say let's blast him. So anyway, we started blasting.
Well, Captain, those are our options. We can either move closer and get a better shot, or we can shoot him from here.
Take the shot from here, Mr. Tavarin.
Phasers or torpedoes, sir?
Well, let's use phasers for this round.
Very good. And I guess as a minor action, Tavarin will move over to the second tactical console. Is that what I have to do in order to...
Yeah, thematically, that's what you have to do, but yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm just gonna... There must be some kind of mechanical reason why I'm
Yeah,
walking
you know,
over
I
to
don't
this
know
other
why I'm
panel.
moving across the bridge.
Just feel lucky doing it.
It's for Alexio's sake.
There you go.
So I will use augmented ability control, and I'll give you 1 momentum to roll 3 dice.
All right. Need to see 3 successes here overall. Which you definitely get even before the Bastet rolls. So Bastet, weapons security from you. Don't roll a complication. Yep. Just a little advice. Don't do that.
Now Bastet's got this.
Bastet does got that. That is 4 successes, meaning you get a momentum back. You know the drill, Tavarin. Let's see how much damage you do.
8 challenge dice, was it?
I believe so. It's actually pretty good shot, all things considered. And you still have Versatile 2, and because that is in the an area or spread. I'm guessing you want spread. Just I have a hunch.
Yes. I'll use all fingers and thumbs free momentum to re-roll those 3 zeros.
Okay.
Nice.
Hey.
All right. So I'm trying to do the math in my head here. So that is 6 damage before resistance. Do you want to do anything on piercing?
We'll spend the versatile 2 on piercing, I think.
All right.
And we don't need to spend that momentum. We still have 3.
Yeah,
we
you
do.
still would have 3. Yeah.
Okay.
So what that's going to mean then, as I do math here, because that is with spread, that is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional hits, all at half damage. So the first attack does 6. The next 5 attacks do 3. Yeah, it's dead. It's dead. So what happens is the Bastet swoops in to save the Thunderchild, and does so in a manner that as the Destroyer C is coming around for a second ramming action, the Bastet veers off to the right and exposes the underside of its saucer section, and a torrent of phaser fire comes streaming out of the Bastet, slamming and bifurcating the Destroyer as it falls neatly into 2 pieces, and the Thunderchild for Flare just flies right between those 2 pieces and uses the tractor beams to throw the remaining pieces at the Corvette. And it slams into the Corvette, detonating it completely. Everything on field is dead.
Ooh, that was some fancy flying.
I'm gonna lean over towards Lieutenant Tavarn and simply say, as I said back in the medical bay, Lieutenant, you'd be fine. Good shooting.
I appreciate it, Doctor. That initial sensor scan of the God, I'm so sick. I can't even think. Thank you. I'm good. I'm fine. Can I have another one of those hypos, Doctor?
Of course.
Thank you.
All right. And it is at this point, since we're an hour in, why don't we take a 5 to 10 minute break, and we'll be back shortly. But before we go, thank you, Genesis, for the mystery gift subs. Thank you. All right, now we'll go to break. See you in a bit, stream. Welcome back, everybody. Before we get into things, I do want to say a few quick things about the month of May. So again, I am doing the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network donations of bits and subs and all that. And during the break, we got a lovely $50 donation from Mr. Wolf. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And yeah, Julia, it's one of those things where, I mean, I think I've said this on stream before, but I'll say it again. I'm high functioning autistic, and it's sort of a passion of mine to make sure that people had the same sort of chances and resources I did growing up. So I'm happy to help. Like, I am absolutely pleasured and pleased to be able to, God, that sounded weird. I'm very happy that I can help out the way I can. But yeah, returning to the game, if you're just joining us, the players actually just did some masterful rolling and tactics that they were able to both allow a courier vessel carrying diplomats to escape, but also save the Thunderchild against every convention that said the Thunderchild should have blown up by virtue of its name. So we return to the bridge of the Bastet, where at this point things are dying down in the battle. There are still small skirmishes between fringe elements, but for the most part, the battle is won. The battle has been decidedly made in the Federation's favor. And it is at this point that Lieutenant V sort of turns in her chair and says, well, I may not be omnipotent, sir, but I can safely say that we've definitely made a difference in this battle.
That's relieving to know that.
And she looks like she's about to say something else, but Lieutenant Muir actually cuts in and says, sir, I'm getting a call from the Enterprise J. A Fleet Admiral Hestia wishes to speak with you.
On screen?
And appearing on the view screen is a interesting individual. She is wearing a Starfleet uniform style that you've actually never seen before, and I'll do my best to describe it. The top portion is sort of that same sort of red style that, say, like Wolf has going on, or like Tavarn has going on, where it's kind of that one band. But instead of the comm badge being off to the right or left, it's actually right above her sternum. And the sort of badge itself is in a line of black that sort of provides almost definition to that splash of red. And underneath that red is another black line, followed by a blue, another space, and then a gold line. So she's actually wearing all three colors, all things considered. And Hestia herself has very long, wavy white hair. She has in two hair clips, which, if you look carefully, look like Starfleet chevrons. And you can tell this is definitely not regulation by 24th century standards or 25th century standards, but she's the fleet admiral and probably get away with it. However, as she appears on screen, she kind of looks around and says, well, thank you, Commander Abasi, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't know how your fleet admiral does things back where she's from, but I'm very informal with those who save members of the Federation, and especially a certain diplomat who others would have wished them to die, but that's a whole rabbit hole I don't need to go into. I'd like to invite you and your crew to come aboard and catch a little bit of R&R as we discuss where to go from here. I understand that you have a lot of interesting characters aboard, so feel free to bring as many as you like.
Abasi will take a moment to take a quick look around the bridge before looking back towards the view screen. We would be delighted to take you up on your offer. Thank you.
Very good. I'll have my helmsman send coordinates for a space and docking bay beta. Do make sure not to scratch the paint coming on the way in. The flight controller is, they've got to stick up their ass, is what I would tell you.
I'll have our best pilot handle it.
Very good. Fleet Admiral.
So what they're saying is they have a flight controller. Because they're all really have a stick. No one? Did nobody take the piloting course? Never mind.
I think V just smiles to herself, but she's not looking at you, so you don't see it. Like, I think it's just one of those unseen smiles. Oh. But yeah, we're going to do a little bit of theater of the mind here, and I tried my best to get a shot of this, but there just is not a whole lot of resources for the Universe class. So, narratively, what I'd like you all to imagine is as you approach the Enterprise J, the large Universe class vessel, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're starting to really sort of appreciate how large of a vessel this is, and that it can literally hold not only a living city inside of it, but so many vessels of smaller size. And you kind of come in on the port side of the main saucer section, where there is a large force field, easily the size of a galaxy class, that permits entrance into a hangar bay of sorts. And hangar bay is actually maybe not generous enough. I mean, this space, this hangar bay, for lack of a better term, is quite literally large enough to fit not only the Bastet, but several other Miranda classes. You're seeing in here, there's a few Nova classes. In general, this is the same level of size that you would see on a Star Dock, like even Earth Dock 1. I mean, that's the level of space you have here. And Droxine, because I find it funny, I need you to roll me a control and con difficulty of 1. Don't roll a complication. That's all you have to do, is not roll a complication.
Yeah, I'll take a momentum to spend on this.
All right.
Helm operations as a focus.
Most definitely, yes.
More
You had one job. You had one fucking job. One job.
This place is really big. It's intimidating.
All right, I made the joke. I gotta go through with it now. As you're moving past all these various ships and just sort of like in awe as you sort of drive in, you're like, oh, this is screw. And you're just like, oh, that's not good.
Oh yeah, the new temporal shielding has changed our basic geometries.
It's shielding, Commander. It doesn't change the shape of our hull.
No, but it changes the tolerances because
There's an angry beep at your terminal, Droxine. I mean an angry beep. It is very aggressive.
Captain, I'm not feeling so good.
I think you need to own up to what you just did, Mr. Droxine.
Hello, you have reached the U.S.S. Bastet.
Now,
There is
don't
no
give
one
me that
available to-
nonsense. I know you're listening. What kind of hotshot pilot do you think you are, scraping the size of that Miranda class? You know how much we're going to have to buff that out? Don't answer. I know you're just going to feed me some cockamamie bullshit. What kind of academy did you attend, son? Don't answer that question either. I know you didn't go to Starfleet Academy because Starfleet Academy actually trains their people to fly a vessel properly. Don't answer that question either because I know full well that you, again, are such a sweet summer child that you don't have anything between that 2 ears you call a brain hole.
That's absolutely unacceptable language to be used on a actually Starfleet graduated pilot. And also, I'll have you know that maybe if you maintained a precise gravitational field in your hangar bay, maybe I wouldn't have to compensate and accidentally scrape the paint off Miranda class.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you insinuating that I don't know how to run a container ship?
You know
Sir,
what?
you have insulted my honor. I demand a duel at noon.
Well, I'll have to ask my captain if that's all right.
Your captain is hereby approved to give you that lesson.
Aye, sir. Thank you, sir.
And then the angry, shouting Southern gentleman just goes quiet as the comm cuts off.
I love him. The doctor says he was a delight.
Does the Federation in the 26th century have regulations regarding personal duels?
I've never asked.
The temporal prime director will save me from him killing me, right?
And V turns, and in the deadpan, most Vulcan way possible, she says, I will make sure to say good things at you during your funeral.
Thanks.
Can I serve as your proxy, sir? I think that would be appropriate for a security officer.
The doctor has kept me apprised, and I have to actually have you wear a hazmat suit because we can't have you giving Benzaid chicken pox to the entirety of the 27th century. So,
actually, it was bully and chicken pox, but I have no idea how I got that. I didn't even know that Benzaids could get that. Regardless, I'm still better at using a facet than you are, even in my current weakened condition, just so you know.
He is the most competent crew member based on my initial research and interactions with the crew.
I think you are, Doctor, but thank you. I appreciate that
please,
sentiment.
get out of town. You are a flatterer, sir.
Listen, Captain, I know we talked about having all the crew pair off with each other. Like that was going to be a foregone conclusion because we were alone at the edge of space, but I never really pictured Tavarin cheating on his girlfriend with a hologram.
That insinuation disturbs me, Doctor. You're not the doctor. I'm so sick. I'm sorry. I'm feverish and. Can I get another one of those hypersprays, Doctor?
Anything for you.
Are we docked now? I would like to get off this ship.
Did I just hallucinate him saying that in a sort of seductive way, or?
Lieutenant Tavarin, I believe you are suffering from a very high fever and are starting to see things. Perhaps we should go to the medical bay and I should treat you.
I'm gonna turn that down, actually. Just because of the way you said treat. So,
I'm a medical professional, and as your doctor and the chief medical officer aboard this vessel, you are in no shape to interact with others. It'll be a quick procedure.
I'm spending one of the complications from earlier. Tavarin, you look at your hands. Your fingernails are black.
That's what I was warning about. It appears you are part of that 1%. So make haste.
Computer, beam me directly to sickbay.
And
for the GM, can
yes,
I, as the EMH, I can just dematerialize and rematerialize in the medical bay, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing! I can be anywhere.
Yeah, you literally can just show up anywhere on the ship. It's great.
Cool. I'm gonna do that.
But as the EMH and Tavarin go deal with that, let's deal with Commander Abasi and Droxine. So Abasi, who are you bringing to the meeting with the fleet admiral? Is my main question.
I will be bringing Droxine as he is first officer.
Okay.
They probably have V come along,
Okay.
and probably Lieutenant Hell.
Now, what I would say is Hell would probably turn that down because she wants a command officer on the vessel, which she is one of. But if you insist, Hell will come anyway.
I don't think that Abasi would insist on it.
Okay.
And then he would ask if anybody else wants to accompany them.
I'm just going through our character list. I don't think there is really anybody else but Tamarochka, and I don't think Tamarochka is going to go for it. I think she's more concerned with the streak she now has to buff out on the Bastet's hull. So
and Mir, theoretically.
Well, yeah, Mir's one of those nebulous characters where I hate to qualify her as a wallflower, but she is kind of the one who does all the paperwork. Like, you know how we were talking about paperwork before the stream? She's the one that handles all the forms and the paperwork, and she's very content where she is. But yeah. So we're going to cut ahead just a little bit, but I'll do my best to describe your journey. So Droxine and Abasi and V, as you all exit out of the gangplank that is attached to the Bastet's hull, and you enter out of the hangar bay into the actual interior of the Enterprise J, what you're immediately treated to is the sights, sounds, and smells of an actual city similar to one you would find on Earth. And what I mean by that is, for lack of a better way to describe this, it's almost as if the entire saucer section has been hollowed out. And on both sides of the saucer section, meaning that if you were to say go to the other side of the saucer section, there would be another city there as well. So this is quite literally more living space than even Space Dock 1. Like this is a massive space. Again, using a figure that we know, this is a 2-kilometer sized city on both sides of the saucer. And as you're looking around, wondering where to go, there's actually already a sort of like pseudo golf cart, like sort of this hover vehicle that has sort of 4 seats in it, and is already behind the wheel. There is a hologram that looks actually like a certain Mr. Data, if you remember how Mr. Data looks. And quote unquote Data looks at you all and says, "Hello, you must be Fleet Admiral Hestia's escorts for the evening. Would you care to hop on? I can take you straight to her."
Yes, thank you. I don't know how we would get around otherwise.
I would imagine lots of walking.
Starting to think I should have worn my dress whites if we're escorting an admiral.
Oh, my mistake. I have been having issues with my lexicon lately. You are to be her guests, I believe is the better way to say that.
Ah, that does make more sense.
I say Abasi is going to walk over to the cart and take one of the seats.
Out of curiosity, who takes shotgun?
Abasi.
Okay. All right. So once everybody's situated, the hover car, or hover cart, however you want to think of it, begins to float up into the air and zoom through the neon-hued and otherwise almost cyberpunk-like buildings as you sort of fly through the city. And at least this side, or at least this city, is sort of in its night cycle, quote unquote. So it is very much, you're seeing neon lights of blues and pinks and oranges and reds and golds. The skyscrapers go almost all the way up to where the saucer section actually ends. And in general, you can just sort of look down and around. You're seeing signs of life everywhere. You're seeing people going about their daily business. You're seeing Starfleet officers going about their business, moderating bits of equipment. If you didn't know any better, you could be on a city anywhere in the Federation. But again, that just speaks to the sheer size of the Enterprise J. And the trip itself takes maybe about a good 15 to 20 minutes. It's that large. But eventually, you kind of come in to one of the heliports on one of the skyscrapers, and the hover cart settles down, and your driver turns and says, Here we are. The Fleet Admiral is down the stairs, first door on your right. And please do let me know if you need any further assistance.
Sebasi will get up. He's been relatively quiet the entire trip, outright just in complete awe of the interior of this saucer section. I don't know what we might need right now, but thank you.
You're very much welcome.
He's going to turn and look to his other two officers. And did either of you need anything before we meet the Fleet Admiral?
I don't even know. No, I'm good.
I'm good, says V.
She's going to nod and follow the directions that were given.
All right. So interestingly, when you proceed down the staircase and take the first right, you actually just walk straight into the Admiral's ready room. Like no door, no force field, no secretary. You just walk straight into her ready room. And what you're greeted by the sight of is obviously a lovely sort of overview of the city outside, but not just the Fleet Admiral herself in the flesh. There's another individual there. She's wearing the same sort of uniform that Hestia's wearing, but instead of the gold line that she just has the blue line. So it's just the red and the blue line. And she's wearing a badge that would seem to indicate that she's a rear admiral rather than a fleet admiral. And as the three of you walk in, Hestia sort of notices you, stands up from her desk and says, "Ah, yes, Commander Abasi, Lieutenant Commander Droxine, and V, I believe, is it? Please have a seat. Rear Admiral, would you mind?" And Rear Admiral sort of nods and says, "Of course, of course." And she scoots over on the luxurious couch that is made of what looks to be real red leather. And at this point, you're getting a sense of this Rear Admiral herself. She has sort of this shoulder length, spiky aquamarine hair. She has two golden horns that peek up from sort of midway on her skull. And she has ears that are vaguely reptilian in design. And you also notice that she has scaling on her arms and her legs. And she also has these very startlingly, almost artificially ice blue eyes as well. And as she allows you to sit next to her on the couch, the Rear Admiral kind of extends a hand to each of you in turn and says, "Rear Admiral Vinleth, pleasure to meet you."
Sebasi will turn to both admirals. Admirals, it's a pleasure to meet the both of you.
Well, and this is Vinleth. Vinleth looks to the Fleet Admiral and says, "Well, Fleet Admiral, would you like to take things, or should I?" And Hestia sort of sits back down and leans back in her chair and says, "Why don't you take this one for a little bit? I'll chip in where necessary." And Vinleth nods and turns to all of you and says, "Very well. So, first things first, I do need to say that everything that you just witnessed out there, everything we say in here, is bound by the temporal accords. You cannot take any technology back, any special knowledge back. I feel like you probably know this already, given what we know of the Bastet, but I do have to say it for posterity."
Of course, we understand.
Cool. Well, in that case, I mean, my understanding is your Fleet Admiral Ignitrix, was it? She put you under Admiral Hestia there until we figured out what to do about this whole sphere builder situation. Is that correct?
I believe so. My orders were simply to come and join up with the fleet for this battle. I wasn't told anything much more than that.
Well, Ignitrix always is and was a strange sort, so probably she forgot to tell you that. But yes, we need a little bit help with the sphere builder situation. And she sort of sweeps her hand across the couch, and almost radiating out from her arm is a holographic display of that 50,000 light year sized anomaly that I mentioned earlier. And she points at it and says, "That's the sphere builder's gateway into our reality. We've been doing our best to figure out how to close it or otherwise send the sphere builders back, but this most recent battle was their largest offensive yet. I do want to say that if you hadn't come along, we probably would have suffered a hell of a lot more casualties.
I'm glad we were able to help keep casualties as low as they were.
And it is at this point that Hestia speaks up and says, well, the good news is that since you all are somewhat temporally interesting, what was the expression, Vinlith? Temporally, and Vinlith says, I believe you mean temporally objective. Right, temporally objective. I think you all are uniquely qualified to figure out how to close this anomaly because it likely won't affect you as much as it would affect one of us.
What can you tell us of this anomaly?
Well, to put it plainly, it is a gateway to a whole nother reality, almost like a subspace manifold, but on a much larger scale. It is where the sphere builders live. Almost makes you wish for the Undine in a way.
Sebastian's gonna tilt his head, trying to think of who the Undine are.
8472.
Out of character, I know.
Okay,
in character, I'm not sure if Abasi does.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think we're too early, aren't we?
No, I mean, you guys are after October, so you would know about the groundskeepers, I think.
But I thought the Bastet originated from prior to.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes, you wouldn't know of them unless you went specifically looking, yes.
Yeah, okay. Good. Because Alex and I are both looking confused for character's sake, I think.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
for character's sake.
Gotcha. Sorry, it's always good to check.
Sebastian's gonna kind of let that one slide for now, put that as something to look up later. What endeavors have been taken to deal with this so far?
Well, we've sent in close to 7 ships, all Oberth and Trident classes, to use their advanced sensor suites to figure out a way to collapse the anomaly, but so far we haven't heard back from any of the 7 ships. We, of course, hold out hope that they are fine and are simply just unable to communicate with us, but you might consider that a secondary objective, to find either the 7 ships intact or signs that they were otherwise lost at space, or lost at sea, I believe is the expression.
Are there any current, trying to think of what the right way to put this would be, I suppose, any current leads you can point us towards to begin what you want us to do?
And Hestia actually opens up a drawer of her desk and takes out what looks to be a dodecahedron, or literally a D20. And it doesn't actually have the numbers of a D20, but it does seem to have these strange glyphs that repeat across the surface. And it's maybe about the size of a basketball, so it's actually a fairly large dodecahedron. And she puts it down on the desk and points at it and says, well, we've been trying our best to crack the computer core of one of the captured sphere builder vessels. And although obviously we might have greater computing power than the Bastet, I think you have uniquely qualified individuals in this matter. And Hestia looks almost directly at Lieutenant V for this entire statement.
I suppose we'll do what we can.
Now, of course, if you need assistance, we would be happy to provide it further, but I think for the time being, the fleet, including the Enterprise J, is going to have to hold the line until the aperture is closed.
What's the priority on this mission, Admiral? Are we expected to lay our own lives down in the effort to close the rift, or is this at least self-preservation?
And Hestia thinks on that for actually a noticeable minute and says, I get the feeling Ignitrix would be very displeased with me if I let you die, so do your best, but don't get yourself killed, kid.
I'm relieved.
And is at this point that Vinleth actually turns and says, well, I believe that only leaves a matter of a duel between Droxine and our flight controller.
Oh. But we have this really high priority mission that we should
No,
go on.
you could take a day, maybe a day or two, maybe 2 days, maybe get some rest and relaxation. I actually already got a report from your EMH stating that Abasi is supposed to take in the sights, something along those lines.
Oh, good. Well, that'll give me plenty of time to get shot. These are non-lethal duels, I presume.
I mean, in 9 out of 10 cases, yes. And is at this point you hear coming up the hallway, now see here, I don't care what kind of person he is, but I will have that duel, and he is not getting... And this is where we pan the camera out of the Admiral's office, and we sort of just go to a shot of the city. And I think that's where we'll call today's session, just because, there's pacing, and we have maybe about 2 or 3 episodes before Alexio comes back. So by cutting it here and then moving into another episode, I think we'll be set to be on track for when Alexio comes back.
Nice.
But yeah, that was today's session. What did you guys think? Did you have fun?
It's a good time.
So there's something refreshing about, especially in a game that is very much like there's a lot of it's like role playing. It's very non-rules heavy. It's fun when we have these like Starship Combat episodes because they're very rules heavy. So it was a nice like twist away from what we normally do. Maybe like just something not to call it a filler episode by any means, but it was refreshing. So I very much enjoyed it. And also Tavarn, great friggin' rolls, man. Like you were on fire with those attack rolls. That was amazing.
That's what the character's really built for.
Cool. All right, well, this is where I'm going to end the recording, but Twitch, stick around because we're going to find somebody to raid. But YouTube, see you later.